We lived at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, just outside Charlotte, the kind of street where every mailbox seemed to have been chosen from the same catalog, and the HOA newsletter overflowed with cheerful exclamation points. Our house was a modest two-story with a porch swing I promised myself we'd use each evening. In reality, it mostly gathered dust, buried under the rhythms of homework, missing soccer cleats, and last-minute dinners where the chicken always thawed too late. Thursday nights carried the smell of charcoal grills and dryer sheets, while Friday mornings announced themselves in a melancholy procession of trash cans rolled to the curb. That particular week, the air was thick with humidity, the magnolias around our yard releasing a perfume so heavy it felt almost celebratory. My husband was turning 40, and I had a plan that felt just right. A simple evening at home with the kids, his favorite bourbon chocolate cake, a little lopsided, like my mother always made it, and a stack of handmade cards with crooked hearts and stick figure confetti. We hadn't hired a babysitter. Money was tight with swim lessons, daycare, and the ghost of a recurring bathroom leak. Still, the tablecloth was ironed, and the kids had practiced their birthday song without squabbling. It felt like enough. He walked through the door in his blue suit, the one that made his shoulders look broad and commanding. Work had a way of flattening him into neat lines and muted exhaustion. Finance uptown, glass-walled offices, glowing numbers. But the moment the kids ran to him, wrapping themselves around his waist, the tension melted. The youngest's curls clung to her forehead in damp spirals. He kissed their heads, smiled at me, and loosened his tie. "Smells incredible," he said. "You didn't have to do all this." "I did," I said, meaning every word. "Happy birthday." We ate on the good plates. The 7-year-old shared a joke he'd been rehearsing, mangled the punchline, and we laughed anyway. The little one carefully passed the salt like it was a crown jewel. By the time the cake appeared, the faint warmth of bourbon rose in the air, and I thought, this is good. Not glamorous, not picture perfect, just hours of life being lived. After the chaos of bedtime, 3 bathroom trips, a missing stuffed fox, one last sip of water, we ended up in the kitchen together. He dried, I washed, and the window framed our reflection against a strip of dark night. He placed a plate down, cleared his throat, and spoke softly, almost cautiously. "Can I ask you something without you reacting?" I raised an eyebrow, flicking a soap bubble from my hand. "Depends on what it is." "A hall pass," he said, "for my birthday." I laughed instinctively, assuming he was joking, but he wasn't. "I'm serious," he said, words spilling in a jumble. "Just once, one time. It wouldn't mean anything. Could spice things up. Guys do it. It's a thing." My hands went cold. Did I hear that right? Permission to sleep with someone else after 10 years together? My pulse tightened. "You want me to approve this?" I asked carefully. "Yes," he admitted. "I thought it could be harmless. I wanted to be transparent. He shrugged helplessly. "I'm restless." The dishwasher hummed like it had always known tension. A clock ticked too loudly. I felt a humorless shiver. The absurdity of this. The betrayal beginning quietly, like a paper cut. "No," I said. "Absolutely not." He exhaled as if stepping into icy water. "I thought you might say that," he admitted. "It hurts just asking, doesn't it?" I stared at our reflection, the two of us ghostly shapes in the night. "This is insulting," I said. "Disgusting." Of course, it escalated. He spoke of change after the kids, of routine, of feeling unnoticed. I reminded him that routine had a name, parenthood, that maybe if he wanted more energy in the bedroom, he could take on a grocery run now and then. He argued honesty. I countered that honesty doesn't ask permission to sleep with a stranger. The conversation ended with me sitting on the dryer in the laundry room, the fan swallowing my tears, feeling as though my life had just tilted. He apologized at the doorway. "Dumb idea. Midlife panic. Forget I said it." I nodded. Forgetting wasn't an option, but I let it stand there as a ceasefire. That night, he slept poorly. I wandered the dark kitchen at 2 a.m., listening to the hum of the fridge, trying and failing to picture the one time he'd imagined. Faces I knew appeared in my mind, unwelcome and sharp. Somewhere, the mundane house sounds became unbearable, a soundtrack to betrayal. I didn't sleep much that night, but I survived, and that, I realized, was the first step. Morning came with an uneasy calm. The house looked the same, mailboxes unchanged, the porch swing waiting, but the stillness felt heavy. I was paying the cable bill during nap time when my phone blinked with a notification. A pending credit card charge. Marriott. Uptown. My stomach dropped. I told myself it must be a mistake. Maybe a work lunch, a hold for a canceled event. But the details didn't lie. I checked his email. There it was. A confirmation, polite and precise, for a hotel room 2 nights after his birthday. King bed, forwarded to another address. My heart sank before my eyes could process the sender. Claire. For a moment, my body forgot how to function. I had to remind myself to breathe. The thread was banal, just logistics, but every word landed like a hammer. I read it again and again, hoping somehow it was a hallucination. He walked in around 6:40 p.m., jacket over his arm, tie already loosened. The kids ran to him like any other evening, and I felt a feral, shameful flash of wanting to stop him. I hated myself for thinking it. "Hey," he said cautiously, scanning my face. "What's wrong?" I held up the phone. "Why did you book a hotel room on Saturday night? And why forward it to Claire?" He froze. Words faltered. "It's not what you think," he began, then stopped. "Exactly what do I think? It looks like you asked me permission to cheat. I said no, and then you did it anyway with my best friend." He tried the searching gesture again, but the right words didn't exist. Finally, he muttered, "I booked the room to see how it felt, like a test." Don't insult me by calling it a thought experiment," I said, voice steady. He admitted to sleeping with her. Once. My knees gave way before my brain could process the weight. The dishwasher hummed on, indifferent. Upstairs, the kids called for dessert. Oblivious. "Get out," I said. "Now. Take a bag, leave. I don't care where. Just leave before I say something I can't take back." He hesitated, charm faltering. "We should talk." "Not now," I cut him off. "We will talk when I can do it without breaking." He moved through the house carefully, like walking on glass. I watched him pack, each drawer and zipper a sound of life uprooted. When he left, the house exhaled. I sat on the kitchen floor with the kids' voices echoing from upstairs. "Dessert?" they asked. "2 strawberries each," I said, letting small rules anchor us. I felt the weight of what had just happened, the betrayal, and the need to protect the children. By 2 a.m., I was at a lawyer's office. Brick building, beige carpet, framed watercolors of boats. The lawyer, calm and methodical, asked for the story. I gave it. Dates, emails, reservations, the hall pass request, everything. She didn't gasp. She simply mapped a plan. Legal separation, temporary custody, financial disclosure. Document everything. Focus on the children. Don't engage in emotional arguments. I left, hands shaking, the street washed in pale Carolina blue. The first step had been taken, real ground beneath my feet. That evening, he texted to FaceTime the kids. I said yes. Their faces bloomed on the screen, gapped teeth and yogurt mustaches. He asked if we could talk later. I told him tomorrow. He blinked twice, a signal I knew well. Surrender, or perhaps recognition. I slept in fits that night. The house sounded different in the dark, shifted. Dawn found me running the cul-de-sac, the humid air pressing against me, the routine a tether to sanity. Sneakers, sidewalks, magnolias, bike balances wobbling along the curb. I moved, and the world kept moving with me. By the end of the week, a rhythm emerged I hadn't chosen, but could survive. School, work, handoffs, routines. I labeled backpacks for Dad's house in marker. Spreadsheets kept track of logistics. Therapy began. Lists were made. Call lawyer, document communication, maintain kids' routines. Every small step anchored me in a reality that wasn't shattered, only altered. The betrayal had happened. The ground shifted. But I was still standing, still building. The days that followed were a careful choreography of survival. The kids adapted faster than I expected. They started calling his apartment Dad's house and ours home without needing my guidance. They drew crayon pictures of two kitchens, two families, two worlds that now coexisted side by side. I built routines like scaffolding: morning runs, school drop-offs, work hours, snack times, baths, bedtime stories. The structure kept the edges of my mind from fraying. On days without the kids, I wrote for clients in coffee shops until my laptop battery died, then walked the greenway just to watch the river move. Therapy became a secret room carved into my week. My therapist helped me untangle guilt, anger, and the tiny threads of relief I had been ashamed to name. "You don't have to be a saint to be a good mother," she said once. I wrote it on a sticky note and pinned it above my desk. Small victories started to stitch themselves into my life. The day I realized I had spent an entire afternoon without thinking about the hotel room. The morning my oldest laughed so hard at breakfast, milk came out his nose, and I laughed with him instead of noticing the empty chair. The email from a client doubling my retainer. The first night I sat on the porch swing after bedtime and felt not just exhaustion, but calm. Grandma became a quiet anchor. She folded laundry while I cooked, slipped cash into the kids' pockets, and reminded me, "You keep putting one foot down. Pretty soon you've crossed the street." Those words became a mantra. By spring, our calendar was a patchwork of school events, pickups, work deadlines, and one small adventure: a weekend trip to Asheville with the kids. We hiked to a waterfall, ate pancakes bigger than our plates, and built a blanket fort in the hotel room. When they fell asleep under it, faces soft and trusting, I sat on the edge of the bed and realized I wasn't waiting for my old life to return. I was living a new one. Evenings on the porch swing became a ritual. I held my tea, the kids worked on homework beside me, and the world's noise dimmed just enough to hear my own pulse. The betrayal that had once rent the air now sat behind me like a landmark. I could see it, acknowledge it, but no longer navigate my life by it. Work grew. The fellowship in New York I applied for months ago finally came through. It offered mentorship, a small grant, and the gift of uninterrupted time to focus on my book. I left the kids with my parents and the co-parenting arrangement in place and stepped onto the train to the city. The first morning, I opened a blank document and wrote, Chapter 1, How You Lose a Marriage and Find a Life. Words came slow at first, then steady. By the end of the month, I had 50 pages. Returning home, the kids greeted me with a handmade sign, "Welcome home, Mom," glitter glue everywhere. My oldest whispered, "Did you write your book?" I said, "I started." That was enough. Life started to expand in small, deliberate increments. I taught online classes for parents trying to build writing careers. My income surpassed what I had earned while married. Co-parenting settled into functionality: pickups, drop-offs, school events. He was still present, still their father, but the sharpness between us dulled. Communication became transactional, factual, quiet, and manageable. Autumn arrived with red and gold leaves. I went whole days without replaying the night of the hotel. Instead, I planned trips to the coast, negotiated bigger contracts, and built an emergency fund. Bicycle rides with the kids became Sunday traditions, and we discovered a bakery offering kids baking classes. Flour-covered noses, sticky fingers, pride in their creations. These moments were tangible markers of the life I was building. At night, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the porch swing with my tea and the hum of the refrigerator. The manuscript grew, shaping itself from survival, not revenge. I wrote about rebuilding, claiming agency, and forging a life beyond betrayal. The house was still the same, the swings still creaked, but the air around me was different, expansive, mine, alive. By the time the manuscript was finished, 2 full years had passed since the night in the kitchen when he asked for a hall pass. In the beginning, I measured life in before and after. Now, that night sat behind me like a distant landmark, visible, acknowledged, but no longer guiding my steps. The kids were taller, their legs like saplings, voices shifting. Saturday mornings still brought cold toes and crumbly toast in my bed. They had their rhythm with their dad, too. Wednesdays for dinner, alternating weekends at his apartment near the Greenway. They stopped asking if we'd ever be a whole family again. Instead, they shared inside jokes from both houses and told stories about school projects and the adventures of their weekend. Healing was quiet, subtle, and uneven, but it was real. My work had become my calling. The fellowship led to a book deal. That book opened doors, speaking engagements, freelance opportunities, workshops on resilience and freelancing from home. I stopped just trying to pay bills. I saved, invested, and felt my own value reflected in my income and accomplishments. Co-parenting settled into functionality. He remained at his apartment, still in finance, still busy, but the tension had dulled. Communication was primarily text, pickups, reminders, homework updates. Once, at a school concert, he leaned over and whispered, "You're doing a good job with them." Not an apology, not a peace offering, just recognition. I accepted it. Evenings on the porch swing became our sanctuary. The kids played or did homework nearby. I sipped my tea, let the day's rhythm settle into me. The house remained the same physically, but the energy had shifted. No longer dominated by fear or betrayal, it hummed with routine, choice, and small joys. I began planning for the future. Trips with the kids, weekend getaways, writing projects, and a life structured around what I could control. The fellowship gave me a month in New York to focus solely on writing. I brought my notebooks, my laptop, and my determination. The city smelled of wet concrete and roasted nuts. In the loft space with other writers, I opened a blank document and wrote, Chapter 1, How You Lose a Marriage and Find a Life. Words came slow at first, then steady. By the end of the month, I had 50 pages. Returning home, the kids greeted me with a cardboard sign glittered with their love. "Welcome home, Mom." My oldest whispered, "Did you write your book?" I said, "I started." That moment, the simple recognition of effort, of presence, was enough. Life started to grow in small, deliberate ways. The kids flourished in both homes, my career expanded. My therapy sessions untangled old patterns, teaching me to prioritize myself without guilt. I started saying yes when help was offered, and no when my body or mind needed it. I learned that building a life isn't glamorous. It's small choices, repeated, anchored in love and boundaries. By the time winter came, the porch swing became a symbol. I'd sit with my tea, notebook open, kids nearby, and the world quiet enough to hear my own breathing. I reflected on the girl who once made lists to survive the betrayal. She had no idea she would emerge stronger, calmer, and capable of building a life on her own terms. The manuscript was finished, the book sold. I taught, spoke, wrote, and continued to grow. The divorce had reshaped my world, but it didn't define me. I was defined by resilience, agency, and the deliberate crafting of a life that felt like mine. The kids' laughter, their small achievements, our routines, all became proof that life could be ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. For the first time in years, I believed I wasn't just surviving, I was living. By the time autumn arrived, the greenway lining our neighborhood had transformed into a firework of red and gold leaves. I realized one quiet afternoon that I had gone entire days without replaying the night of the hotel in my mind. Instead, I was planning weekend trips to the coast with the kids, negotiating a bigger contract for my writing, finally building an emergency fund. I had begun to reclaim control of my own time, my own life. I bought a secondhand bike and rode with the kids on Sunday afternoons, discovering a local bakery that offered kids' baking classes. Every Thursday, they came home with flour-dusted noses and triumphant smiles, proud of loaves they had created themselves. Those little moments became markers of life moving forward, proof that joy could coexist with the shadow of the past. On a night when the kids were playing outside, I sat on the porch swing, laptop open, and filled out an application for a writing fellowship in New York. I attached clips of my work and hit send, feeling not like an imposter, but someone deliberately stepping into possibility. The air smelled crisp, and the swing creaked gently under me. I was alive in my own rhythm, no longer just reacting to betrayal or loss. The fellowship response arrived on a rainy Tuesday while I was cleaning peanut butter fingerprints off the fridge. Subject line, "Congratulations, Fellowship Award." For a heartbeat, I thought it was spam. Then I opened it and sank to the kitchen floor, laughing and crying with disbelief. A month of focused writing, mentorship, and support for my book project awaited me. The validation wasn't just about success, it was recognition, acknowledgement from outside my own tiny orbit. I was seen, I was believed in. Arranging the logistics required planning, trust, and careful coordination with both my parents and the kid's dad. My mother pressed $20 into my hand at the train station, whispering, "Something sweet just for you." The city of New York, November washed and concrete damp, became my sanctuary for creation. I wrote early into mornings, hours stretching with possibility, the loft window offering views of bustling streets below. By the end of the month, I had 50 pages. Returning home, I was greeted by the kids holding a handmade sign, "Welcome home, Mom." My oldest asked if I had written the book yet. I said, "I started," and that answer, small but truthful, was enough. Work began to grow in ways I hadn't imagined. Freelance clients multiplied, speaking invitations arrived, and eventually I even launched an online class for parents wanting to build writing careers from home. Income exceeded what I had earned before, and for the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving, financially or emotionally, I was thriving. Co-parenting became functional. He still lived in his apartment, still worked in finance, but our interactions dulled in tension and sharpened in civility. Pickups and drop-offs became predictable. He delivered a quiet compliment at a school concert. "You're doing a good job with them." Not an apology, not a reconciliation, but a recognition of the work I'd done, and I accepted it. At home, the porch swing remained a constant. After dinner, I would sit with tea, watching the kids do homework nearby, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Grandma continued her quiet presence, folding laundry or delivering homemade meals. "You keep putting one foot down," she'd say. "Pretty soon, you've crossed the street." And slowly, I had. The divorce finalized quietly, without dramatic slamming doors or shouting. We talked about schedules, holidays, and boundaries, never about the past. The decree arrived in the mail one afternoon, and I made pancakes for dinner. Lopsided, homemade, comforting. We ate together, the crayons still scattered, the kids' artwork proudly displayed around the kitchen. Life was not perfect, but it was ours. The manuscript finished, I realized, was more than a book. It was a record of survival, a testament to building a life from fragments. I typed the first line of a new project. This is not a story about loss. This is a story about building. I thought about the woman who had once sat on this very swing, making lists just to survive the night. I wanted to tell her, hold on, it gets better. You get better. The future no longer felt like something to fear or endure. It felt spacious, inviting, and full of possibility. Step by deliberate step, I was walking towards a life I had chosen, one filled with resilience, joy, and self-possession. The kids leaned against me, sticky and warm from ice cream, the swing creaking beneath us. The sky over the cul-de-sac faded to a soft Carolina pink. For the first time in years, everything felt ordinary and brand new all at once. I breathed deeply and thought, you're not just surviving anymore, you're living.